societies that impact us in terms of the norms makes us who we are. So for example, if a society is very illicit and indecent, where indecency is the norm, where an institutional indecency is the norm, then our children and our communities, next generations, will all hold on to that lifestyle as the norm. Even though they may not like it, they will start to practice it. You find social pressures are part and parcel of our growth. And what we call pressures, such as peer pressure, is part and parcel of our growth. Not a single one of us can argue that we have not been impacted somehow, somewhere, through peer pressure. Not a single one of us. We're all, what we say, either victims or beneficiaries of peer pressure. You know, in Surah Ibrahim, you'll find that when the person has been condemned, he turns to Iblis. Iblis is that agency also, who is of the negative pressure. And the one who's condemned to hell will say, well, he's the one who caused me to be in my state of failure. And Iblis says, فَلَا تَلُومُونِي, don't blame me. لُومُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ, blame yourselves. I had no authority on you. I simply suggested, and you obeyed and followed. The power of suggestion. If we just examine the psychology and the sociology of suggestions, you find suggestions are even the raising of an eyebrow. It could be just, the look. It could be the odor, meaning the kind of cologne, perfume, the smell, the pheromones that we give off are highly, highly impactful on the suggestions that we are given. Sometimes in such subtle ways that we don't even realize why we think the way we think. It's because something in the environment is affecting us. Now, while these may appear as negative potential problems, they can also be extremely positive. Many times when I see youth who are unfortunately addicted to alcohol or drugs or pornography or bad behavior, when I ask them many times, how did you get there? What caused you to start this? When did you start this? How did you start this? The predominance of response that I would get is, well, I was with my friend or my group of friends, and one of us suggested, my friend suggested, that how about we do that? Or my friend was just doing it, and I thought it was cool. And for me to be part of that clique circle, I needed to be cool with that circle, so I decided to indulge in it. And the unfortunate reality when you go deeper in this conversation with these young generations is you say to them, well, why did you not resist when you knew possibly that it was bad? And the typical answer is, well, I didn't want to resist, because if I resisted, then I may lose my friendship with that circle of friends. Think about that. So our loyalty to sustain relationships sometimes comes at a cost of self-destruction, which is exactly why Quran, the Prophet, and Ahlul Bayt are so important for us. Peace between your brethren. Here, فَأَصْلِحُ بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ has many, many connotations. One is not to be self-destructive or to harm the other. Not to get into any kind of hatred and dislike. This is the common understanding, that let's not be enemies of each other. But when we say let's not be enemies of each other, we're not talking about temporal enemy. We're talking about eternal enemy, the one that affects our morality in the negative. So when we say, فَأَصْلِحُ بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ per the Quran, what it means is make peace not only in the physical transactional systems, but at the ethical level, where you and I now promote each other to become better, and we compete with each other in Quran, in Hadith, in learning. That if my friend knows one ayah more than I do, then I need to outdo him by knowing 2 more ayahs. And if my friend has given charity, then I want to outdo my friend by giving more charity. If my friend is very close to Allah, then I want to be just as close, if not closer. For that level of competition is what the Quran constantly encourages us. And that we should make dua, that our friendship should not only be worldly and temporal, but it should be eternal. For when I meet a person and I say, I want to be your friend forever, there is a condition. That condition requires that you have to be morally upright. For it's impossible to maintain an eternal level of friendship unless we both agree that this level of friendship, due to its high moral standards, will continue to bridge us and bring us closer eternally, even in the next world. Who promoted evil, the ones who did evil and destroyed each other, they encouraged each other to imbibe in drugs and in alcohol, not because they were truly their friends, but because they were guilty and they wanted the guilt to be shared. They didn't want to go down the ditch alone. They wanted to bring a bunch of friends, so it's not as lonely as one would say, and it's more validated. It's almost like when somebody is arrested for an evil deed, and if a whole group gets arrested, it doesn't look as bad as when one person gets arrested for doing an evil deed. This level of negative peer pressure is what our societies are suffering today. And as a community, there is no way for us to stop this trajectory until and unless we create healthy environments by which to encourage our young generations to see the brighter side of life and to be able to make willful choices by which to reject any negative suggestions, as the Quran has encouraged us. لَأُغْوِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. By your authority, I'm going to fool them, beguile them. How? By using these kinds of strategies with which to take humankind away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way He fell. For He was revered, but His arrogance got the most of Him, and He decided to disobey Allah. He manipulates us, who takes us towards evil. And you'll see that the worst human beings are the ones who manipulate others to destroy them, and especially when they do it on a mass scale, where religions have been formed because of these evildoers. Is this friend worthy of me being in paradise together with? Is this friend worthy of me being eternally with this person? And what is the condition of that friendship? Constant growth. For there are three qualities, the Holy Prophet said, when you meet a friend. One who reminds you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How many friends do we have that we spend time with that remind us of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Many a times we walk away from such friends, that they become so close to each other. And what is it built on? If you went to Zuhair ibn Qayn, you went to Habib ibn Madha'ir, if you went to Muslim ibn Awsaja, you went to John bin John, you went to Hur ibn Riyahi, Ar-Riyahi, ibn Yazid Ar-Riyahi. When you go and ask these personalities, what bonds you with each other? What is it that you are all standing? Abdullah ibn Umair Kalbi, and his wife. You ask his wife, Wahab, Wahab. Ask her, what bonds you with your husband? What bonds you with this community who are standing there holding on to the banner of truth for Imam Hussain alayhi salam? They will tell you, فَأَصْلِهُ بَيْنَ خَوَيْكُمْ وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهِ. We are extracting the gems of humanity between ourselves. At what level? At the level of the moral beauty that God has infused in the believers. That there's something magnificent that protects them as a guard against the evil suggestions of shaitan in going towards the indulgent, negative ways of life. And you find that that characteristic is what you and I should all aspire towards. You find that these companions stood next to the Imam as the followers of the wilayah of Hussain ibn Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, that his wilayah, his authority, his commandment from God was essential by which to eradicate the filth of society. And today, 14 centuries later, we recognize these companions, and these companions are closer to us because they become a means for us to understand how to obey the blessed Imam. For if there were no companions and the Imam was alone, you and I would wonder, who should I use as an example on how to be a good servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How do I become a good follower of our blessed Imam alayhi salam? How do I understand that? And what better venue for you and I to understand true companionship of the Holy Prophet's grandson Imam Hussain alayhi salam than in the times of trials and tribulations that leads to your own death. martyrdom. And then you have that as an example. Could you find anything better? Discuss this further in these other nights. But tonight, to understand, people like Zuhair ibn Qayn, Habib ibn Madahir, were the kind of friends from childhood. When you study Habib ibn Madahir, for example, he was a very close friend of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And I'll describe that briefly. But first, let us go to Surah Al-Fath, the 40th chapter, the last verse. I just want to lay the foundation and I'll talk about it in the subsequent nights because this is crucial. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the 29th verse, He says, Muhammadur Rasulullah, وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ أَشِدَّاءُ عَلَى الْكُفَّارِ. Just think about that, right? So God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying the Prophet Muhammad is the messenger of God, Rasulullah. وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ, and those who are with him. Interesting, those who are with him. Here, by the way, وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُمْ is not talking about somebody who's in proximity as a Sahaba. No. Ma'ahum here means who are with him in principle, in purpose, in function, in movement, the combinations thereof. وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ, meaning they are with him in principle and purpose. Not just by being around him, who challenge him, who bother him, who take his rights away. Not those. Ma'ahu here is one who is deeply following the commandment of the Prophet. Ashiddau ala al-kuffar. We will talk about it when we talk about Abbas alayhi salatu wassalam as an example, the brother of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. He was firm with Imam Hussain alayhi. He was that, what we call that anchor for Imam Hussain alayhi salam. That he would hold himself firm, so principled, not available for sale. Even when Shimr al-Jawshan comes and offers him sanctuary to get out of Karbala, he rips it and steps on it and says, never, how dare you offer me when you don't offer the agent of Allah, the representative of Allah, you want to butcher him and you want to give me sanctuary? No. Abbas looks at him and says, I will fight every one of you. Ashiddau al-kuffar. You and I, in our day to day, when indecencies are done, people are lying, cheating, doing bad things, you should be firm against kufr. Somebody is harming somebody is usurping an orphan's wealth, somebody is committing a haram act, be firm and say, no, I will not tolerate this. Not in a harsh way, but in a firm way, consistent way. Ruhamau bainahum. You know how many times you and I as Muslim brothers and sisters, do we really practice rahmah, mercy with each other, kindness? Rather, we spend so much time undercutting each other, so much time destroying each other. If you listen to the gossip and the negative media against any good project being done in our communities, you will see the first people who attack it with the worst of worst strategies, it is our own people. You do a project, they want to undercut you. They want to spread negative rumors. Rather than support a positive project, they want to kill it. They want to cut it. I think about Imam Ali alayhi salam, who is the brother of the Prophet. How many people really supported him to such a degree that in Khutbah Shaqiyya, he says, it's like a bone stuck in my throat. Who caused the bone to be stuck in his throat? If not those very people claiming to be Muslims. Whereas Ruhamau bainahum is that you bridge فَأَصْلِحُ بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهِ, and be God conscious. For what reason? So more mercy comes to you. لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. So that more mercy comes to you. Do we do that? If you look at as our community, many a times, rather than support projects for them to grow, we find faults in them. We find reasons to undercut them. That even when you hire staff, they go around and try to get those staff to leave your premise so that they can go and do their other things so that they can. If you look at the story of Karbala, that in the night before the day of Ashura, they were all murmuring in prayers because Imam Hussain alayhi salam asked for one night to do dhikr. Look at dhikr. The other side was merrymaking, laughing, sharpening the swords and spears, waiting to butcher so they could go and collect their 2 cents worth of misdeeds. Imam Hussain and his small group are worshipping Allah. They're holding on to each other with spirituality, with love. Do you and I have that practice? Many a times I've seen people come with hatred and rancor, and I point a finger at myself. I'm not pointing a finger at anybody more than I do. That we must love each other. We must look at each other through the lens of Allah. That you should be firm against kufr and don't allow indecency and immorality. But when you look at your brother, you see him as your own. He's like your mirror, as the Prophet said. That when you see your brother and sister, see them as a mirror of you. And if they have a scar, cover it. لا تلمزوا أنفسكم ولا تنابزوا بالألقاب. Don't give each other bad names. Don't find faults in each other. Do we do that? Many a times we have forgotten Allah. And I'm a witness to this fact. And when you and I bring love together because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you and I notice we'll never cheat each other. We won't backbite. We won't rob each other. You and I will make sure that just as I want to be successful morally, so is my friend going to be. Because it's directed for an eternal journey. So when you say, why are you protecting your friend? Respond by saying, I want my friend to be the one who's going to be with me in the hereafter. You know, in Arabic people say, Ya Habib Qalbi or Ya Habib Albi. At the heart level, so that you and I are bonded together eternally. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He brings forth a sprout. Then it becomes strong. كَزَرْعٍ أَخْرَجَ شَطْأَهُ فَآزَّرَهُ فَاسْتَغْلَظَ فَاسْتَوَى عَلَى سُوقِهِ يُعْجِبُ الزُّرَّاعَ لِيَغِيظَ بِهِمُ الْكُفَّارِ. Look what it does. This is something we must take a lesson on. That it becomes stout, firm in its stem. It delights those who have grown it. And it will enrage the unbelievers. How come these brothers are together? Why are they not separable? Why can't I, Shaitan, divide them and conquer them? They are indivisible. They are one and the same. The way Yazid and Muawiyah's army tried to always infiltrate the Prophet's family, always tried to divide them and conquer them. These are one body. Ruhamau bainahum. He enrages the unbelievers. They say, Yazid ibn Ziyad, Umar ibn Sa'd, Shimr were so angry that Imam Hussain alayhi salam was so together with his companions. And they did everything to separate Zuhair ibn Qayn, to separate Muslim ibn Awsaja, to separate these companions who were top quality. Habib ibn Madahir. You find what happened? They couldn't. It enraged them. Mankind is influenced by the faith of his friends. And the Prophet says, therefore be careful who you associate with. Because if you associate with a faithless individual, if you associate with a person who's reckless and doesn't care, if you associate with the negative kind of people, people with negative energy, then it will drain you. But if you associate with God-conscious people, sure, Shaitan says, look, if you associate with a God-conscious person, you can't lie, you can't cheat. It's time of salah, you may have to go to pray. You want to date a girl indiscriminately or a boy, you know. You want to go out dating and be free, as they say. Happy-go-lucky, willy-nilly. You hang around this God-conscious person, he's going to stop you. I've seen people, oh brother, I don't want to hang around these sisters, they're all muhajjaba, because then I feel out of place. I said, well, it depends on what kind of feathers you want to grow. You want to grow nasty feathers? Well, not really. I just want to be sort of in between. I want to be in between. Not very God-conscious, but also not too liberal and, I want to be sort of neutral. I said, say that to Allah on Judgment Day. Say that to Malakul Maut. Say that to the angel of death. Oh, by the way, while you're taking my soul, I just want to let you know, I have maintained a nice balance between the evil and the good. I've sort of teetered between the two. Isn't that great? And you should avoid making friends of 4 kinds. 5 actually, but 4 major ones. A fool, Imam calls him ahmaq. A miser, Imam calls him bakhil. A sinner, Imam calls him a fajir. And the 4th one, a kadhib, a liar. Avoid these 4 qualities in a friend and you will be safe. And Imam describes, he says, be careful to spend time with a fool, because he may intend to benefit you but may harm you. How beautiful that is. Imam says you should avoid making friends with a miser, because he will run away from you when you need him most. How beautiful that is. Imam says you should avoid making friends with a sinful person, because the sinful person will sell you for nothing. So true. Sinful people will throw you in the cell, and when you're addicted and on the streets dying, that same friend who insisted that you should start that drug is no longer to be seen. Imam says, and you should avoid making friends with a liar, because a liar is like a mirage. They will make you feel things that are far, but actually they are near, and vice versa. And who wants to be around such illusions? So when we go to Karbala and we see the quality of Habib ibn Madahir and Zuhair ibn Qayn,